Okay, another important thing that I want to kind of touch on is this whole player thing, this whole pimp thing, this whole Mac thing. And we're going to use references from this brother's book, The Art of Macking. All right? And I'm going to quote him. In the hustling category, there are three types: players, Macs, and pimps. Now, the first thing we're going to address is the player thing, because everybody want to be a player and this, that, and the third. Okay, a player's general objective is to have sexual intercourse with as many women as possible. Playing is considered the simplest form of hustling. Okay, so let's kind of explore this a little bit, because one thing that's necessary for us to address in the whole connotation of being a player is because you're trying to have sex with as many women as possible, and the average brother is trying to not only have sex with as many women as possible, but let's be realistic, a brother's trying to ejaculate as many times as possible. And this also ties into not only just players, but cats who just, sit in their mama basement and masturbate all day, whatever the case may be. Just to address that. Okay, what is semen? And what is the importance of semen in the health of a man, right? Okay, in ancient times, it was understood that semen tied heavily into a brother's immune system, and it tied heavily into the longevity of life, right? It was basically understood to be your life essence, so to speak. So semen is composed of fluid, bodily fluid, and especially fluid from the brain. So whenever you ejaculate or whatever, it goes straight. It doesn't just come out. It goes straight up to your brain, and then it comes down out of your penis or whatever. Okay, the brain weakens and shortens the life of a human with the whole process of ejaculation. Being overly sexual for a man is literally deadly. Okay, because in a lot of cases, most men who are overly sexual in this way, they have no idea how to replenish these fluids. Most brothers don't eat right. They eating Whoppers with cheese and stuff like that or whatever. Drinking 40s, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm over exaggerating, but the average brother, you drinking sodas and stuff like that. You're not drinking water or whatever after you have sex. It's just different things or whatever. Most brothers don't have any idea how to really replenish themselves after sex, and you losing a lot of your bodily fluids. Not to mention, some guys up there, and this is just a male thing. Just speaking from a male perspective or whatever. Some guys, you trying to get 2 and 3 nuts off, as they say. You trying to ejaculate 2 and 3 times or whatever, and you're not replenishing what you're losing or whatever, because in reality it takes like about 2 to 3 days to replenish what you lost during that whole session of sex, during one sex session, if you eating properly and doing what you need to do. So back in the day, I know you're saying like, well, our ancestors had 4 and 5 wives and stuff like that, because our ancestors dealt with the science of sex. You understand that? They dealt with semen retention and things like that. But we'll get into more of our culture and our natural sexual practices a little bit later in this whole discourse. But just to go into this a little bit, Tariq Nasheed, he goes into this a little bit in his book called The Mac Within. He says he refers to the second degree Macs, or what he refers to as players. According to him, the second degree Mac and a player is interchangeable. Okay, and I'm gonna quote the brother. The second degree Mac is the highest level of macking that the average man will reach in his life. This is because the average man has been taught to value sex over everything else. Okay, these same brothers I'm talking about, these so-called players or whatever the case may be, they are over-sexualized males. Okay? These are individuals who value sex over everything else, okay? And he also says in his same book, The Mac Within, women eventually become frustrated with men that they can dominate and control sexually. The worst part of being coochie whipped is not knowing it. So a lot of your so-called players or whatever, and this is not even this can pertain to players or whatever who, settle down or whatever case, trying to have as much sex as they can. Or this can just pertain to a brother who's with one chick or whatever and having abundance of sex or whatever, being coochie with or whatever the case may be, as urban culture calls it. Just not replenishing these vital fluids in cases like that. And just to touch on this, another quote that he says, many cats that are in jail now are in there because of some love triangle. Ironically, you have a guy scrapping with each other over a female, and when they get thrown in jail, the female they were fighting over is out there kicking it with the next two fools. Yeah, we've spoken about that. And he brings to our attention an old pimp expression called, put your dick in your pocket. Because as we're going to explore, as far as from a pimp perspective, from an actual pimp perspective, not, a TV pimp perspective, but a real street hustler pimp perspective, this is how this guy lives and makes his money. This is how he was pretty much brought into the game from a child or whatever, pimp perspective. A pimp is not really concerned with having sex with a female. He really has to override his natural inclinations for sex in order to get what his main objective is, and that is money. So the term "put your dick in your pocket" is a term that's used as far as, this brother brings it out in his book or whatever, is basically to override your natural inclination for sex in order to actually get that money and get something done. Okay. Because another quote this brother uses, I'm going to quote this brother one more time. When you require females to bring something to the table, they will try to use sex as a bargaining chip to wiggle their way out of doing their chores for you. Okay? So that's just something else that the brother addresses or whatever. Because if you allow a woman to use sex against you, she will use sex against you. And that's just the society that we live in. Okay? To address the Mac, just moving right along to address the Mac. A Mac is a brother who uses his verbal skills to attain his each and every goal, whether it's sex, money, love, employment, etc. A true Mac can talk his way into or out of anything. Okay, that's the definition for a Mac. And a Mac, that would pretty much apply to, that would pretty much be more universal as far as like businessmen or whatever the case may be. And obviously that wouldn't be limited to males. Okay, now let's go into the pimp. Okay, a pimp is considered the extreme form of hustling because a true pimp's only objective is money, bottom line. So and I'm quoting this brother out of his book, The Art of Macking. Okay, and just to address this subject, he speaks on again in a book called The Mac. Within he speaks out, he says that if you're not a man who verbally, not physically, but verbally convinces a female to go out and have sex with another male or female for that matter, and she gets paid for that sex, she brings the profits from that, 100% of those profits from that back to you as payment, you're not a pimp. So I just really wanted to kind of touch on that because it's so many misconceptions about that right there, and people just love to call themselves pimps and stuff like that. And the reason why I'm really kind of delving into this street culture thing is because of the fact that this is what we saturated with all day. We saturated with, on BET, you don't hear anything, you don't see any movies about our culture and where we really come from. You see movies about pimps and hustlers. So this is how we gotta really these are the issues and topics we really have to delve into to really let people see this over-sexualized culture versus our true culture and where we really come from. As black people, we adapt the best way we can to things like this, but at the same time, we have to be able to see through these things and kind of be able to have eyes that, can read the code of the matrix, so to speak.